Countdown is on. Less than 48 hours to the final state primaries in this historic, unprecedented, and unpredictable presidential election season. Hello and welcome to Justice, special Sunday edition. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. So 475 pledged delegates up for grabs for the Democrats Tuesday in the Golden State of California as the battle between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders reaches its climax. But will anything really be settled by Tuesday? This as Donald Trump continues to dominate the headlines as the presumptive Republican nominee. We've got an all-star lineup tonight of political insiders and analysts here to break it all down for you. But first, the latest developing news in the Hillary Clinton email scandal. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton joins me now. All right, good evening, Tom.
Good evening, Judge.
All right, just when Hillary Clinton says there's no chance she'll be indicted, and an Inspector General report comes out and says she broke State Department rules, at 5:30 this past Friday, a federal judge says he wants to see the deals that the feds inked with Brian Pagliano, the guy who set up her private email server and managed it. Now, why would the judge in the civil case want to see that?
Well, because Brian Pagliano was supposed to testify tomorrow to our attorneys in our Freedom of Information Act case. The judges in that case wanted discovery to figure out if there was a lack of good faith and the handling of our Freedom of Information Act case and how the system was run, Mrs. Clinton's email system. And he said a few hours earlier on Friday that he was going to assert his Fifth Amendment claims, rights to every question our attorneys asked. And the judge said, hold on a second, you know what, we're going to put this deposition off. You give me the legal basis for doing that, and by the way, file a copy of your reported immunity agreement with me. Because you can't do that necessarily. Every question that you answer with a Fifth Amendment assertion of privilege, you can't. You have to have a reasonable fear that you're going to be prosecuted for that answer, and that's what the judge wants to get at. Is the judge looking, Tom, to find out whether or not the immunity that he has been granted by the Department of Justice, and we all know the FBI can't grant the immunity, only the Department of Justice can, is the judge looking to see whether or not he is in jeopardy or whether or not he has transactional immunity, which means he's get out of jail free, can never be prosecuted, in which case he could be forced to testify as to how the server was set up, how he monitored it, the fact that he was paid privately by the Clintons as a former campaign worker as well, and the State Department. Because if he has broad immunity, as you suggest, or even a narrow form of immunity, he may have to testify. That's exactly right. And I tell you, if he does assert his Fifth Amendment claims, unlike in a criminal case, in a civil case, a judge, if he chooses, can draw adverse inferences, use that assertion against you, and suggest and conclude that maybe there's something to hide.
Does this judge, appointed by Bill Clinton, a federal judge, has said, you know, had Hillary Clinton followed the rules, we would never be here. You get the sense, number one, that the judge is frustrated with the, with the failing of the State Department to come forward with all of this information. But number two, that if indeed Brian Pagliano would be in criminal jeopardy, that there is more likely a chance that Hillary Clinton will be called to testify at this deposition?
Well, we haven't decided whether to ask for her testimony in this case. We have another case before Judge Royce Lamberth, another judge looking at this, who we've asked for Mrs. Clinton's testimony directly. More context, Cheryl Mills, Mrs. Clinton's chief of staff, testified a few weeks ago, and she claimed attorney-client privilege for Mrs. Clinton. That was the privilege. Over her conversations with Brian Pagliano. So the judge must be getting, I would think, pretty frustrated after seeing all of this.
All right, so what you've got is you've got a witness on the stand in the civil deposition, Cheryl Mills, who's been with Hillary for years and years, some people call her the pit bull. So she's claiming not only does she have attorney-client with Hillary, but she has attorney-client with Brian Pagliano. And so it makes sense that this judge is getting frustrated with all of the dances they're doing. But what did Pagliano, the guy who set up the server, give the Department of Justice that made it worthwhile for them to issue an immunity, whether it's transactional or use?
We don't know. We don't know how broad the immunity is, whether there is any immunity at all. But this is why it's important that this testimony take place in the end. I mean, the judge may constrain his ability to assert the Fifth, but each question needs to be answered. And if he wants to assert his Fifth Amendment right, that's his choice if the court lets him. But we can draw conclusions against him and against the State Department and the former head of that agency, Mrs. Clinton, if he starts asserting the Fifth on these key issues related to the setup of the server, how it was set up, why it was set up. Was it set up, for instance, to evade the Freedom of Information Act and other federal record-keeping requirements?
Okay. All right, Tom Fitton, it should be an interesting week this week. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, so California, here they come. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders in a dead heat. As the Real Clear Politics average shows, Hillary is up by only 2 points heading into Tuesday. Here to break it all down for us, political poster Lee Carter. All right, Lee, you can see it right there on the screen.
Yeah.
2 points, that's margin of error. Who wins on Tuesday?
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Bernie pulled it out. I think it's really, really close right now. And looking at the trends over the last couple of weeks, you see that each week Bernie's been gaining on her. In the last 2 weeks, it's been a 10-point gain that he's had. And Hillary's obviously...
So what, Lee, what do you attribute that gain to? I mean, why is it that all of a sudden Bernie Sanders is, you know, just heading up in the polls in California? What has she said?
You know what? I'm not exactly sure it's what she has said as much as what she hasn't said. I don't think that people really understand what she's all about. I don't think people understand what her message is, other than she's not Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders has come in and says, I am about giving people more opportunities. We're going to wipe out college debt. We're going to do all of these things. He's very specific, and people know what he stands for. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, it's very vague. It's very ambiguous. She has major trust issues where Bernie Sanders does not. And I think that you're really seeing that that's gaining up on Hillary. Now, she might pull it out, and even if she doesn't, I still think she's going to be the nominee, but she's going to be a wounded nominee any which way.
All right, let's talk about that. If Sanders does win California, and if you follow the trend, it appears that he may very well win, that
Right.
she's falling, he's going up in the numbers. But does she then, assuming, you know, she goes to the convention and Bernie has sworn there's going to be a contested convention,
Yeah.
apparently, does she stay left to keep his millennials? And if she does that, does she risk losing the independence that she needs to win the election?
I think she does. I think right now she wants to move right as soon as she gets the nomination. It's not to the center, I should say, not right.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to keep her left, and he's absolutely saying, I am going to hold her to that. I want a voice in the platform. He might even want to be VP. Who knows what it is? And he's also said she's got to give something to my supporters if she wants a chance of keeping them. And we know that fully a third of Bernie's supporters saying, I'll go to Trump before I'll go to Hillary. So right now you've got this big movement of people who are saying, I'm not sure what she's about. I like Bernie Sanders, and it's going to be really, really hard for her to do anything right now except that she's going to have to.
Who is more important to Hillary Clinton, the millennials or the independents?
The independents. There's no question right now that the independents are so important. And when I do my dial testing, when I do my response, I find all the time independents are tracking with Republicans. They're liking the idea of job creation. They're liking the idea that we've got to get that we've got to get immigration under control. Whether or not they like the full platform of Donald Trump, a lot of people, independents, have said, look, 75% of what he says makes absolute sense to me. 25% I'm not so sure about, but I'd rather go for 75% where I know exactly what it means. Whereas with Hillary, I'm just not sure what it means. Is it another 4 years of Obama? Is it going back to Bill Clinton? I'm not really sure. She has not expressed a platform that anybody can rally around.
Let's talk about the candidate haters. All right, so you've got people, who hate Hillary.
Right.
And then you've got people who hate Donald.
That's right.
And so then the question is, who has a better chance of flipping the other candidates' haters to their side? Is it Hillary to get Trump's haters or Trump to get Hillary's haters?
It's really, really hard to get people actually to go out and vote against somebody. That's something that we've seen historically is something that doesn't work. Mitt Romney thought it was going to happen. It just doesn't happen. But the issue, so we've got likability issues. They say that Trump is less likable than Hillary Clinton. But if you look at extreme likability, it's a different case. But also there's a trustworthy issue. Hillary has an extreme trust gap Even Trump has 15% more trustworthy numbers than Hillary Clinton. At the end of the day, are you more likely to vote somebody you like or somebody you trust? And trust is a really big issue right now. Now, there's a lot of people say, I don't trust Trump, I don't know what he's all about, but the numbers tell us that they trust him more, that they say he means what he says and says what he means, and that really matters to the voter today. So I think people are going to be more likely to go over to Trump unless they have some kind of attack machine that's going to take him down, which is really, we just haven't seen anybody be able to do that yet.
Well, yeah, and she's got a lot of money right now to do that. I believe more than he has.
Well, for sure, but you've seen all the money that's already been spent. I mean, we had 17 candidates that were trying to take down Donald Trump, and they spent a fortune trying to take him down, one attack after the other. I've tested over 50 attacks against Donald Trump, and only one has been effective so far, and that's his attack about the way he treats women.
All right. Well, Tuesday is going to be very exciting. New Jersey, any question about that?
No, I think Hillary's going to win New Jersey. I think that's the way it's going to go. Yeah.
So, but there's no way, even tonight with Puerto Rico, I mean, there's no way she gets to that magic number until Tuesday.
Until Tuesday.
All right, good. Lee Carter, thanks so much for being with us. And coming up, Hillary Clinton sounding off on Donald Trump. Her big national security speech, the most direct attack on Trump to date, and he didn't hesitate to fire back. You're not going to want to miss our take next.
Incoherent. They're not even really ideas, just a series of bizarre rants, personal feuds, and outright lies. He is not just unprepared. He is temperamentally unfit to hold an office that requires knowledge, stability, and immense responsibility.
That was Hillary Clinton on Thursday, launching a barrage of attacks at the presumptive Republican nominee, Donald Trump. Clinton casting him as a dangerous man with a petulant streak that could threaten U.S. national security. Trump firing back, tweeting, "Crooked Hillary no longer has credibility, too much failure in office." Here with reaction to the foreign policy face-off, Fox News military analyst, retired Colonel David Hunt. Okay, so, hello.
Hi.
It is billed as one of the best speeches she's given, a great foreign policy speech. What did you think of it?
I'm the wrong guy. I thought delivery is fine. I mean, I think it. If I listen to all my friends like you who know politics, it sounds like she changed from a primary to a national election, and she was smacking him back like he's been smacking everybody else.
Okay, so how is this a great foreign policy speech? What did she say about foreign policy?
No, I think it's delivery.
There's nothing that I saw on here.
I get it. I agree with you. I think it was delivery I'm talking about. I didn't hear much of anything except what Trump couldn't do.
Trump is no good.
But she also announced, she also was talking about the stuff that she claims she did well as Secretary of State. But there wasn't any policy in it.
Did she talk about Benghazi?
I don't believe that was in the subject matter. We've done two and a half years of that.
Isn't that part of our foreign policy?
Libya and Benghazi would be up on the top of the list.
Yeah,
sure.
But she didn't talk about it. Did that trouble you, Colonel?
Well, yeah, considering the stuff shows we've done on it, sure.
Yeah.
That was a major disaster, but it's not been settled.
Okay, so, I was looking at Trump's foreign policy speech, and, he talked about Iraq, Egypt, Libya. He talked about rebuilding countries while we weaken our own. I thought what was interesting was that he said allies are not paying their fair share. Only 4 of the 28 member countries in NATO are spending the minimum required. I mean, as I went through his speech, there was everything about what's going on in the world. It was foreign policy. She didn't say much about foreign policy.
No, I mean, she was an attack on
Donald Trump,
on the guy that's going to be running against her. No question. But the problem you have with what Trump is saying is that you don't get a lot of meat on what he's talking about. He's right.
Oh, my God, I have his speech.
Meat. I'm talking about meat. He mentions great subjects. I'm talking about some depth. That's, for me, the issue. Yes, he's covering the map. But what does he mean?
Okay,
like, for example, getting countries to pay for it.
When he talks about NATO, I never heard anybody. I didn't know this.
We've been carrying NATO load for years.
28 countries are paying their way.
That's true, and we are NATO. The U.S. is NATO.
The U.S. is NATO.
That's
but here's the problem. He's saying, you know what? We're not going to spend our money to defend countries that aren't.
That's easier said than done, as you know. That would be much easier than said than done.
Okay, let's talk about the fact that he talks about the Iran deal. Has she talked about the Iran deal?
I think she did in the speech. Look, there's a huge problem here between the opinion of should we have done the Iran deal or absolutely not.
Of course. I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but I'm saying let's talk about it.
Yeah, but they are doing it. I mean, Trump is saying she's 100% wrong. The Bush Obama administration should not have done it. And she's saying, no, this is the only option we had was to do something. He's saying absolutely shouldn't do anything.
All
the
right.
problem with not doing anything is what do you want to do with Iran? You want to go to war with Iran? Don't think so. So we got to do. You had to do something.
What he said is you walk away from the table, and obviously you know that in full disclosure, I'm friendly with Trump. But you know, you walk away from the table as opposed to give him $100 billion or whatever.
Well, whatever was $150 billion, which we haven't given them.
Right.
Yet, they haven't given them yet. But the issue for me with Iran is you have to stay engaged. You also have to spy on them. And a lot of the ways we're getting at that is through these kind of treaties. You never have treaties, as you know, Judge, with your friends. You have treaties with your enemies. The problem with this
Yeah, but if
it's
they lie
divided
to you, what
politically.
good is a treaty anyway?
Our enemies always lie to us. We did this with
I mean,
Russia.
they hid one of their nuclear plants while they were negotiating.
You can't. I don't trust Iran. I don't trust the Russians. I'm saying we don't do treaties with our friends. You do them with our enemies.
And what about Libya?
What
and
about-
the chaos
what about Libya?
as a result of her wanting to go into Libya.
Libya is a huge mistake. The problem
so why
Mr. Trump
did she
has.
talk about it? Were you disappointed?
No, the problem with the Trump said is, for example, he says ISIS is controlling the Libyan oil. Unfortunately, that's not true.
Who
ISIS,
is?
No one, just tribes. It's
You
all
don't think
illegal.
ISIS is in there taking oil for
I
themselves?
promise you they're not taking oil yet. But ISIS
You're
is
right.
in Libya. They're in Libya, and they're bad guys, and they should be destroyed. But and Libya was a failed policy, there's no question.
All right. So you still think she's a better candidate?
I think I know
militarily?
it. I'm still unconvinced that your friend has got the details enough yet.
Well, I'll tell you, his speech, check it out, everybody, has a lot more in it than hers. But my good friend, Colonel David.
Good to see you.
Always good to see you. Last night, you saw my one-on-one with Donald Trump. And if you missed it, where were you? But fortunately, we're going to show you a few of the highlights. And does Donald regret his criticism of the judge presiding over that lawsuit on Trump University? Hear what he has to say next. That's me. Did you watch my show last night? Of course. California, and sat down with Donald Trump in his Beverly Hills home. The GOP presumptive presidential nominee doubled down on his criticism of Hillary Clinton and the judge presiding over the Trump University case. Take a look at some of the highlights. You have been the most accessible candidate in history in terms of the press, and yet you believe that many of them are not treating you fairly. Are you now going to limit your accessibility?
No. Look, I will say this. There are some that are really bad. Washington Post is really dishonest. Really, really dishonest.
Why are they so much against you?
Because they think that I, frankly, you want to know the truth, is the person that bought it has a big stake in Amazon. And Amazon's not paying taxes, and I've said openly that they should be paying taxes, and they're also destroying the retail industry throughout the country. I don't care about that, other than it's not a good thing to happen to our country, and I've said it. And they're going to be a monopoly. You look at the department stores, what's happening to them. They're going down the drain because Amazon is becoming a monopoly, and they know. And he bought that as a tool for himself, like a lobbyist. But the Washington Post has 22 reporters on me. There's never a good story. I mean, you know, I could win by the biggest margins in history, and they'll say Donald Trump should have done better. Well, they are a very dishonest group. New York Times is very dishonest. I mean, New York Times is a very dishonest newspaper. I would say the Washington Post is worse. But I'm not talking about they're unfair. I'm talking they're purely dishonest.
Do you
to me,
ever
that's
think
unfair.
you can go like this and just say, I'm going to just...
Yes, I do. When I'm wrong, I tell you, I can take criticism better than any human being.
You can, and I want to talk about that. I was on an airplane with you, your plane.
Okay.
I'll bet it was 15 years ago. And you were sitting next to me, and you were reading, I think it was a New York Times magazine. I have a vivid recollection, and I had already read it. It was a story about you. And I was in politics at the time, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just kind of watching you. There wasn't a grimace. Your brow didn't move. It didn't change your temperament. How'd you get so tough?
Well, it's not a question of tough. When I am wrong and they write about it, I can take that better than anybody. I agree with them. I have no problem. But when they write falsely, they write so many false things, and you understand that because I know you you did the political thing, and I know you even went against Hillary for a period of time,
a few weeks.
and I don't think that was probably
It was not.
because she's a liar. She's a major liar. They talk about foreign policy that Donald Trump wants Japan to get nukes immediately. I don't want that. I want Japan to pay us because we're protecting them, and if they don't pay us, you have to be prepared to walk. And if you walk, They're going to arm. Now, how they're going to arm, that's going to be up to them. But I never say Japan should nuke.
What Hillary is saying about you is that you're a loose cannon. The world order is going to change. You're a fraud. You're a scam.
Yeah.
Is she picking up your way of handling
she's
campaigning?
trying to. She's trying to.
And
she's trying to pick it up. But look, Hillary is incompetent. You know that by just look at her past record. Look at Libya. Look at what happened with Benghazi. Look at what happened with so many different things that she's done. Everything she's done. It's
so
been
why do
a
people
loss.
support her?
It's almost out of habit, if you ask me. It's almost out of habit. It's like, why do you keep eating popcorn when it doesn't taste good? Okay? It's like a habit. Boom, boom. and the same thing with her. She's a habit.
Okay.
And you know what? It's time now. I think people are fed up with the Hillarys of the world.
Trump University. Did you oversell that?
Let me just tell you, it's just crazy what's going on. So we opened a school. We opened a school that was very successful, had a lot of students, and they did valuation reports after they left. And we have thousands and thousands of valuation reports. Everybody's saying it was great. They loved it. They loved it. I don't know if you ever heard this, but we have thousands of them.
So why are you getting sued?
Because a class action firm from California, who I hear gave Eric Schneiderman a lot of money to run, who I hear paid Hillary Clinton $900,000. This is all stuff that's going to come out that you don't hear, but I hear they paid her $900,000 for speeches. I hear they are.
Who did?
The firm that brought the lawsuit
firm
paid Hillary Clinton $900,000, as I understand it, for speeches. They paid her a lot of money for her campaign. I heard $400,000 or $500,000 for her campaign. It's a very political thing. I have a judge who is truly unfair. I don't know the judge, but he's truly unfair in San Diego federal.
Why did you refer to his ethnicity, Donald?
Well, because his heritage is Mexican.
So
and because I want to build a wall. And I'm getting along great, I think, with Hispanics, but I want to build a wall. There's some people that don't like that.
Some of the numbers don't indicate that. Do you think you have to dial it back?
Look, I have to be what I have to be. I mean, I have to tell the truth.
Let's talk about the most recent Quinnipiac poll. Your unfavorables around 50, her unfavorables about 50. Who has a better chance of flipping the haters? Do you have a better chance of flipping the Hillary haters to your side, or does she get a better chance of flipping your haters?
I think I do, because people know that she's incompetent. People know that she can't do the job. They know one thing about me. I'm very competent. I can do the job. Look, I borrowed $1 million, and it's worth now $10 billion. Right. And I filed all of my documents. I filed with the federal elections, the biggest filing they've ever had. And it talks about this great company that I've built. I built a great company, very little debt, tremendous assets, tremendous.
Can you make America great again?
I can totally make America great again, and that's why I'm doing it. I mean, it's lovely to be with you, but I'd rather be with you without all the cameras. I mean, to be honest with you, it's doing this isn't fun. Doing campaigning isn't fun.
Why is it that you've got the President of the United States who is coming out and basically saying all these horrible things about you? I've never seen that in history. I mean, this early on, where the guy is coming out and trashing you.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, he's coming out. He's actually trying not to use my name because he's not supposed to. You know, he ought to really focus on his job, because he's doing a lousy job as president. And what he should do is focus on his job and find out, why are we losing so many jobs? You know, the number 5% is a total phony number. It's really 20% or close to 20% unemployment. That's just a phony number to make the politicians look good. It's if you look for a job, Jeanine, and you don't find it, and you give up, and you go home, and you go to sleep.
You're still unemployed, but you're not a statistic.
You're not a statistic,
right.
Okay?
Or
it's a total phony number. Jeanine, the country is a mess. The world is a mess. We helped make the world a mess. Going into Iraq was a disastrous decision, maybe the worst decision ever in the history of our country. Number two, getting out of Iraq the way Obama did it, he didn't have a clue. And now you have, I mean, then she got into Libya. And by the way, who has the Libyan oil? I'll tell you who has it. ISIS has it.
Right.
And it's great oil, by the way. It's the highest quality oil you can get. So ISIS now has the oil that Hillary Clinton gave them by going in and doing that stupid, you know, that stupid attack on Libya. Just the world was crushing, and she goes and wants to do more. She doesn't have a clue. She doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't have the strength, the energy. She cannot be president.
It's California or bust for Bernie, and thinks she's finally seeing the end of the tunnel in the battle against Bernie Sanders. But is she? Take a listen to what Bernie had to say.
At the end of the nominating process, no candidate will have enough pledged delegates. The Democratic National Convention will be a contested convention.
So, with renewed talk of a contested convention, could it really still be anyone's game? With me now, Bernie Sanders surrogate in Democracy for America, Communication Director Neil Soroka. All right, good evening, Neil. All right.
Great to be with you.
Bernie vowing there's going to be a contested convention. I mean, who'd have thunk? I mean, the Republicans are supposed to have the contested convention. Bernie Sanders comes out and says, doesn't matter if she's got the delegates, I'm going there. Why?
Well, listen, it's a complicated process. If you had told me a year ago that we would be in a position in June with Bernie Sanders still in this race fighting for delegates, I would have said you were crazy. But the fact is he's run an incredibly strong populist progressive campaign that has excited millions of people across the country. And the race in California is it's a jump ball at the moment.
Right. And it's amazing how far she's dropped and he's come up. I mean, there were 2 points within the margin of error, according to, I think it's Real Clear Politics. But
yep.
What doesn't make sense to me is she's got the delegates. Isn't it time to think about the party and think about winning?
Well, listen, she has clearly a big majority of the superdelegates, but those superdelegates don't vote until we actually get to the convention. So the reality is Bernie's right. This campaign does go through the very end on primary day unless he decides he no longer wants to be in this race or she gets a majority of the pledged delegates.
Okay, let's talk about those pledged
week.
delegates. I mean, those are like the elected officials. It's what people say is part of the rigged Democratic primary system. But wouldn't they have, at this point, said, you know what, I've been listening to Bernie for 6 months. I like him, 8 months, whatever, 10 months. I'm going to Bernie's side. Wouldn't we know that by now? Why do they have to take it to the convention?
Well, listen, superdelegates have the ability to change their vote all the way up until we get to the convention and they actually vote for the nomination. So that's the thing. Now let me be clear. Democracy for America believes that the nominee should be the person that receives the greatest number of elected delegates, those ones that people are voting on right now. And we've got a few more contests left to go. But the fact is, Bernie has the right to do what he's doing. And frankly, it's going to be his choice on what happens over the next few weeks.
All right. So, Neil, if Bernie were to win California and New Jersey, and I think you've got Puerto Rico tonight with 60, yep. I mean, he still doesn't beat her in terms of elected delegates.
Well, in terms of those superdelegates, listen, I think if you have a strong close at the end of this race, okay. Winning a lot of these states, the superdelegates could very easily switch boards. We've seen these superdelegates switch in the past.
All right. Will he take VP?
I think you leave that up to Bernie Sanders. I think regardless of whether Bernie Sanders ends up the vice president or somebody does, the truth is that there are millions upon millions of populist progressive voters in the Democratic Party who need a representative on that stage.
I get that. I get that. But here's the question. There's so much anger out there. I mean, do you really think that the Bernie supporters are going to, just come out if she ends up getting the nomination and then saying, look, we got to come together as a party and vote for Hillary? I mean, doesn't Hillary have a two-step to do to, get those supporters to her side?
Well, the thing I'll remind you of is back in 2008, we had a bunch of people calling themselves Pumas who said they would never vote for Barack Obama in the 2008 election. In fact, there are a greater majority of Hillary Clinton supporters in 2008 who said they would never vote for Barack Obama than there are Sanders supporters right now who say they won't vote for Secretary Clinton. So primaries can be contentious, they can be tough, and up until the very end, people say they might not support a given candidate. But at the end of the day, I think Democrats are going to unite to defeat Donald Trump, hands down.
All right, Neil Soroka, thanks so much for being with us. And joining me now, my all-star panel to break it all down, Republican strategist and Donald Trump surrogate Boris Epshteyn and former aide to Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, Chris Hahn. All right, guys, I'm going to start with you, Chris.
Yes.
I mean, what is Bernie doing?
Look, He's got a primary on Tuesday. He's going to tell his supporters, vote for me, I could still win. He knows in his heart of hearts he can't. He also knows that Tuesday's his last stand to make any play for the convention. He has no chance. She's won the majority of votes. She's won the majority of pledged delegates. She's won the majority of superdelegates.
But they
He's
still
lost all
go
three
to
categories.
convention. He can still go and disrupt it.
Not going to happen. Within a week of Tuesday, you will see a complete 180 from Bernie Sanders.
What are they going to give Bernie to stop?
I think he's going to have a very big role in creating the platform of the Democratic Party.
What's the platform?
Look,
okay,
that's what he wants. That's what he wants.
I'm going to go to you, Boris. Let's assume the platform is a very left platform. By Hillary moving left, she, in the hopes of capturing those millennials of Bernie's, loses the independents, does she not?
Absolutely. And a lot of those blue dog Democrats, too, which are very important in the key states of Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania. So Bernie is unquestionably hurting the party. They're having the Menshevik-Bolshevik split the Communist Party had in the early 1900s, and the Democrats are having the same thing, and it's great for the Republican Party. Let me finish. And it allows Donald Trump to stay on message, continue to attack Hillary, who is going to be the nominee.
Okay. It would be nice if he stayed on message. I don't know what his message is. It's all over the map. But I will say this, though. Look, there will be a coming together of the party. It happens every couple of years.
You already said that. Now, let's talk about your candidate.
Go ahead.
180 days.
Yes.
The woman has not had a press conference.
Look, I believe that when you run for public office, you should appear in public. I think she should have a press conference.
When she does, she has like a rope in front of her.
Look, I'm not going to defend that. I think you should take all comers. You should take all questions when you're
So why isn't she?
I don't know. And frankly, I think that's one of the things.
The reason that she doesn't want to be asked about Benghazi, most of all, she does not want to be asked about the email scandal.
Because anything she says can and will be used against her.
She goes on the morning shows. They ask her about Benghazi and the email scandal anyway, and she goes on the morning shows every day.
Speaking of the morning shows, did you see her with George Stephanopoulos this morning?
I did see that.
He went at her.
He did, and I think it was very clear that he wanted to say, "Look, I worked for Clinton, but I'm a reporter," and he did what he had to do there. And I think she handled herself pretty well.
She didn't. Do you think she did?
Terrible. She does this two-step every time. When asked last week, she said, "I had the email server set up because I didn't know how to access my emails on the PC." You know what? The American public are not buying it. That's why her truth numbers are below 10.
She's got to come out and say,
people believe her.
She's got to come out and say, "I have been in public life for the last 30 years. People have been attacking me. I wanted a little privacy in my email. That's why I did it. I should have done it."
And that's why I broke federal law.
I think that's what she should have done.
Let me ask you a question. You know what I think is amazing?
Yes, ma'am.
Bernie is starting to talk about the money to the foundation while she was Secretary of State and her husband was collecting money.
Yeah, I think Bernie needs to stop doing that.
You know what?
Oh, why?
He'll stop doing it. We'll keep doing it.
It's ridiculous.
They have to restate 4 years of tax returns because they took money from sovereign funds.
Oh, well, if you want to talk about tax returns, I'm waiting to see Donald. I'm waiting to see Donald.
But we already know about the Clinton Foundation tax returns and the fact there's the New York Times. Yes, the liberal New York Times wrote a story.
We know about it because they've been released.
The Russian government funneling money to the Clinton Foundation.
When is Donald Trump going to release his tax returns?
Donald has not released his tax returns. He says he's being audited. But with Hillary, Chris, don't you think there's a bit of a difference? She's Secretary of State, getting money to her family's foundation, dealing with all these foreign countries while money is going to her. In other words, she's a government. She's our representative to the world.
Everybody acknowledges that the Clinton Foundation did great work. It's being politicized.
Who's everybody?
Everybody. George W. Bush has spoke at the Clinton Foundation. Republicans and Democrats and independents and people from around this political spectrum have been involved with it before she was running for office, and now it's the evil empire.
Before she was running for office, it wasn't existed before she ran for office.
No, let me tell you something. They created the foundation when they were leaving the White House. Remember, she had to return like $200,000 worth of stuff they took with them, but that's another issue.
No, it's going to be, the foundation will be very ugly for her.
Well, it depends, and I think that what's so interesting, I think she sent a message today. Hillary Clinton, when she was talking to George Stephanopoulos, said, everybody in government knew that I was using an email server. Everybody knew about it. You know what that tells me? That tells me that she's saying, all you people who answered me on my private email address on my private server are complicit, Mr. President, you know, and all you other dignitaries. She just put the punch right out there that I heard loud and clear.
Sounds like obstruction of justice to me. Scaring other witnesses sounds like obstruction of justice. Now, she tried to say that other secretaries of state did the same thing, which was a lie.
Every secretary of state before her did the same thing.
Okay, stop.
So wait, Colin Powell had a Gmail account or something.
What Secretary of State had a private server?
I think they were using...
The answer is a name. Give me a name.
Well, hold on a minute. They all use private email.
Answer my question.
No, they use public servers, which was worse.
They use a government server.
No. They use private email accounts. They used, like, Yahoo. I mean, it's going to be a great...
I am absolutely not.
All right. You know what?
Fool the American people. It's very unfair.
Look, the truth is, no one else had a private server.
That's right.
She did. And the question to the American people is why. Anyway, we're just getting a report now that Hillary wins Puerto Rico. We've got 60 delegates in Puerto Rico. Still not enough, though, to put her through the to the number she needs that she'll probably get on Tuesday in New Jersey, but we'll see. Again, Hillary Clinton winning Puerto Rico. Those results just in. Now, one more thing, guys. This guy, David French, who's supposed to be the third-party candidate, has issued a statement saying he's not the right person to challenge Hillary and Donald Trump, but the path remains open for others.
Bill Kristol probably is coming up with another one somewhere back there. But you know what's interesting? The Quinnipiac poll had just Clinton and Trump. Clinton was up by 4. Clinton, Trump, Johnson, and Stein. Clinton lost 5 points. Trump only lost 2. So the other candidates are taking away from Clinton more than they're taking away from Trump, and that's very interesting.
Quickly, I got
Look, Mr. French writes a great blog on Game of Thrones, and I enjoyed it very much.
This guy?
Bill Kristol, I loved him in soap, but he's never made a good prediction on politics in the last 30 years.
Here's a prediction: Trump president.
Chris Hahn, thanks for the lively debate.
Thanks.
And some real ugly scenes in San Jose on Thursday as protesters attacked Donald Trump supporters outside a rally there. But you didn't see what was taking place inside. I was there, and you're going to see it next in Street Justice inside a hangar.
Here tonight. I'm from Trump. I want America great again. That's why I'm here. Why are you here tonight?
Well, the reason I'm here is because Trump stands for what I came here for 35 years ago, and I feel everything's going down the tubes.
How about you? Why are you here?
I love the whole synergy and energy that Trump created and generated.
I believe that it's important that we show our support, even if California doesn't go for Trump. There's a strong concentration of conservative values in California.
I'm an immigrant. I'm coming from India, and I've done everything right, and I've tried for years and years together to get my family here. And the injustice that people like me feel when fence hopping, law-breaking people are awarded or rewarded with citizenship, when all the hardworking people like us are trying so hard to realize the American dream.
For London people, we should get together and vote for Trump. He'll make the difference.
What do you think about the wall?
Well, I think I have a lock on my front door and I have a fence around my house. So I believe that, yeah, having a wall for security is a good idea.
How do you feel about illegals who come here and don't go through what you went through?
I think that's horrible, to be honest with you. I think that's unfair to everybody, for those who really go through the process I went through, and for all American hardworking families in U.S. I think that's something that absolutely must be changed.
Hillary Clinton, what do you think of her?
Hillary Clinton is the most corrupt woman in this country.
Hillary is going to put us as a middle-class mother, and I have 2 kids, I have a special needs child. They're going to put us under welfare.
Well, you know, Hillary is a liar, I think, so it's hard to, yeah.
I thought that it would be good to come to this rally to support my beliefs and what I believe in, because I hate Hillary Clinton. Well, the media is making Donald Trump out to be the bad guy, but really, we know who the good guy is.
Is Barack Obama a good guy?
No.
Why not?
Because he uses the Second Amendment like it's toilet paper.
Does that mean you have guns?
For what do you mean?
He's concerned about the Second Amendment, but he doesn't have a gun.
Well, we technically can't bring guns in here.
I don't mean you have a gun here, but do you own a gun?
Absolutely.
Why did that not surprise me? Okay, what kind of gun do you own?
AR-15.
Why do you have a gun?
Because it's all right. And they're fun.
What do you do?
I'm a hairdresser.
That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. See you next Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for being with us.